Oh, man, they've got it all wrong. As usual, the reporters and the folks who are not paying attention with this Crown Center deal from almost 2 weeks ago now. You've got a situation where Crown Center continues to find itself in a bad spot. And, of course, you had the shooting that took place, and 6 people ended up getting shot last Wednesday. Feels like 2 weeks ago, but it was only a week ago yesterday. And I'm reading through the Kansas City Star yesterday afternoon. And by the way, good morning. Happy Thursday.
What? I can't see you.
Sorry, John. I'm here.
Kind of foggy.
Yeah, I know. It is. Unbelievable. Wow. Be safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't even see 435 from our studios. So, Crown Center's silence after shooting appalling to tenants who call for communication. So, this is the most recent update on the shooting down at Crown Center from the Kansas City Star yesterday. And their frustrations are in all the wrong places. Their frustrations, according to this article, are with the management company for Crown Center, which has failed to publicly address the incident and provide updates to businesses about security. Well, if I'm a tenant of Crown Center, you know what I'm wondering? Because we haven't heard anything on this yet. Where the heck are the arrests? Where are the charges? I mean, we're on now 8 days since the shooting down at Crown Center, and does anyone know anything about what's going on there? I had someone in law enforcement reach out to me yesterday and say, yeah, I'm just wondering if anything's happened. I'm like, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. And then, obviously, being tongue-in-cheek, they noted, well, you know, we're just kind of waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for some kind of arrests, some kind of charges. And you're telling me, with all the video cameras around Crown Center, they don't have any idea who's involved in this? They don't have any idea of some of the people who are tied to this case? Tied to, 6 people getting shot at Crown Center, middle of the day, 5:30 in the afternoon, last Wednesday afternoon? Yet the Kansas City Star, as always, decides it's going to take an approach and it's going to go after something and someone and some organization that, yeah, maybe could do a better job, but certainly is not the prime culprit for how we've devolved into a city that is continuing to set records for murders every single year. So I was blown away when I saw this yesterday, but I really shouldn't be, because I get blown away every single day. Like also by these fountain IDs that are now readily available around Kansas City. You see this? We were having a good laugh about this before the show started today. Oh, before you start cracking all your jokes, John, let me tell the audience about these fountain IDs. All right, so this is now a municipal ID card that is free in Kansas City for Kansas Citians who don't have documents traditionally needed to get another form of ID. The Kansas City Health Department began issuing fountain cards yesterday morning. The ID cards are available to anyone who lives in Kansas City, and the new cards are meant to help people who do not have a state-issued ID, such as a driver's license. The card will help people open savings and checking accounts, rent apartments, and access a number of services provided by the city. Okay, so how do you get a fountain ID card? Right? That's the next obvious question. How do you get yourself one of these? To get a fountain card, applicants must complete an application through the health department and present proof of residency. One form of photo ID is also required. If the applicant does not have a photo ID, the person is allowed to submit at least 2 of the following alternate forms of ID. A schoolbook year photo. A yearbook photo, excuse me. You can submit your yearbook photo to get one of these.
They have that like for driver's license, and that's typically got to be then within 5 years, although I don't see that stipulation here.
So so what did your hair look like, by the way, John, when you graduated high school?
There was a period of time in the middle 90s where I was a hair farmer and had a ponytail.
Oh, you had a ponytail in the 90s?
I should bring you a picture. You will.
Oh, gosh.
You'll be on the floor.
Oh, we've got to see, Mark, we have got to get our hands on the John Anthony ponytail photo. You know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had an emo haircut for a while.
You
so
had an emo haircut?
You guys could laugh at me for that.
You know, my high school yearbook, my hair was down to like my eyebrows. I did have it long around the ears, so I did break that out. Now we're all going to have to bring in our old photos. That's what we're going to have to do. That's Friday content tomorrow, okay?
They had a situation where I'd lost my license, so I had to go over to Kansas. It was in Lenexa, and so they're telling me basically some of this same stuff on the list. I'm like, I mean, I got a yearbook picture, but I graduated 20 years ago. Right? You know? Well, it's got to be within 5 years. I'm like, oh, well.
Well, that doesn't do any
thanks.
good. Yeah.
Okay, right. So on with the requirements here.
So the other things you could bring in if you want to get one of these fountain IDs, a W-2 form issued within the last year, in addition to a signed Social Security card, court-certified adoption papers that include adopted parents' names, certificate of vehicle title of registration documents, proof of auto insurance, insurance policy, Medicaid, Medicare documents or ID card, military discharge documents, utility bill shows name and address of the applicant, voter registration card, shelter name band. So I'm just beyond confused because if you have all of that information, what do you need one of these fountain cards for? Oh, I see. If you're here illegally. That's who this is for. But even if you've got all these different things, you probably can get some type of identification potentially. So the only people that I could imagine this making sense for is somebody who is not a citizen. That's it. And that's why I found it very interesting that yesterday, Quinton Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City, who, of course, is going to be on the show this morning at 7:30, he tweeted out, Kansas City welcomes all. This was at 1:55 in the afternoon with a red heart, a black heart, and a green heart. I wasn't quite sure what the red, black, and green signified, but it was obviously in line with yesterday, these fountain cards getting rolled out. Because that's the only group of individuals I can imagine having any use for these fountain cards. Because everyone else, if they had all that information and they were American citizens, they could get themselves driver's license or not a driver's license, but they could get some kind of ID, right? If they're an American citizen and they can provide proof of all these different things, or at least some of them, they can get an ID. The only folks who could not, theoretically, under this scenario, are those who are not American citizens. So what's the purpose of that? We're seeing New York, Chicago, many major American cities be overrun. Is the fountain ID going to be the ticket to Mayor Lucas waving his hand and saying, hey, Joe, send him up here, baby. We got some room for him. Got a couple empty slots in 1 light and 2 light. They'd love those places.
Red, black, and green are on the Palestine flag, by the way.
Are they really?
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me.
No, I just looked it up just to double check.
So is this what it...
I don't know. I'm just putting that out there.
All right. You're right.
Yeah, we were researching. I was asking Mark. I'm like, that seems
could be a
familiar.
wild coincidence.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think so, though. There's nothing that this mayor does that is a coincidence. I can't wait for 7:30. We got a lot to talk about. Because you know what else is going to be happening today, potentially? They're going to be passing an ordinance in Kansas City, Missouri, to basically ban landlords from checking basically the background of potential tenants. Yeah, you want to know if your buddy next door is a pedophile who just moved in? Well, the tenant, no one's going to know. Potentially, depending on how this ordinance passes today. This is the biggest thing happening in Kansas City this year thus far. This vote today. We'll get you the details on it and tell you what's going to be happening today on this front coming up next on a Thursday, a foggy Thursday morning. Take your time out there. Welcome in on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. When you're in the news cycle every day, 24/7, you kind of lose track of time. It's like I said, I thought that Crown Center shooting for a moment there was 2 weeks ago. It was just last Wednesday. So last night I get an email from my good friends over at KC Tenants. Yes, I obviously say that tongue-in-cheek, but I did get an email from them yesterday, and I sent it over to Mark because I was like, gosh, I don't know if Mark was here since he was off for a little bit with the baby. I don't know if he was here when this was all going down. And then I realized he wasn't. This was all mid-December when the Kansas City, Missouri City Council was considering banning landlords from effectively doing background checks on potential tenants, like finding out their criminal history, their credit history, all those things that, I don't know, if you own property and you want to make sure that lowlives and criminals and scumbags aren't living on your property, it seemed to me you have a right to do that. But Kansas City, Missouri was considering banning this. They're calling it source of income discrimination, as if somehow it's really about discrimination and more opportunities for all. No, it's not. It's about less opportunities for homeowners and mom and pop landlords. And it's about making sure that basically anyone can live wherever they want because, well, this is America, damn it. And if you want to live in 1 light or 2 light or 3 light and, you're poor, well, guess what? You deserve that because you're in America or something. I think that's how it goes. I'm not totally sure, but it's something along those lines. So I get this email from my friends at KC Tenants, and they write here, tomorrow, January 25th, that's today, City Council will take a final vote on the ordinance to ban source of income discrimination for good. This historic campaign is close to the finish line. Now, KC Tenants is a commie organization here in town. They have been for the last 2, 3 years. They've been around, more or less. And, they just push for anything free. That's kind of their big deal. So that's what they are. That's what they push for. They write here in their newsletter, let's give it all we've got to deepen housing access, affordability, and racial justice in Kansas City. Now, you know what this will do, right? This will not actually help affordability. This will make things more expensive, and this will make it so that there is less competition in the rental market in Kansas City. Because every mom and pop landlord who's in town right now is going to get the heck out, as they should. If you are a small landlord, you would be insane to own property in Kansas City that you rent out if this ordinance passes today. You will have no ability to tell who is renting your place. You will have no ability to get people out of your property. They will have more rights than you. It's like the viral story in California when a guy was basically squatting for 6 months to a year in a place that he didn't own and wasn't paying the rent on, and the landlord literally could not get him out. You're going to have stuff like that happening here. I guarantee it if this thing passes today. Now, yeah, it might be an extreme example, but still, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can end up happening when there are unintended consequences around ordinances like this. So anyway, it will increase costs. It will decrease affordability of housing because suddenly you will have all the rentals owned by a small conglomerate of corporations who will set the price, who will work with each other if they so choose to make sure that they set the price and the price is what the price is. And guess what? There's not enough competition to try to get that price down. There are not mom and pop landlords, promoting and advertising on places like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and saying, hey, I've got a, room available, apartment available at this location in Midtown. Come on down. Here's the price. You will only have corporate landlords in Kansas City. And that's the problem for a lot of these folks. They don't understand the way of the world. I hate to be that blunt about it, and I could be more blunt, but I don't want to violate FCC violations here. They don't understand economics, basic economics. This is not complicated stuff, and they don't understand the way of the world. Would you rather have a housing supply of rentals that is part corporate, part mom and pop, and you have everything from the guy who's got one or two rental properties to the corporation who's got hundreds. I would want that. I would not want the vast majority of rentals in the hands of a small conglomerate of corporations. And that's what's going to happen with this policy. So these people are advocating for policies that is going to directly cause the outcome that they claim to fight against. And that is the man and corporations. And, we're here for the little guy. Well, yeah, you're screwing the little guy. And by the little guy, I mean the landlord little guy who's got a couple of properties, who's, worked his entire life to try to buy a couple of pieces of property. And now he or she would be wise to run for the hills. So that's what this is potentially going to cause. I had reached out to a couple of members of the council and tried to get them on. Obviously, the mayor is scheduled to be here in an hour. But I talked to a couple other folks. I know, Mark, you've got Nathan Willett coming on with Ray this morning, right? At about 11:30 today?
Yep, that's right.
So I've reached out to a couple other members of the council to see if we can get them on. And what I was told as of last night is they wanted to check to see if they've agreed on the amendments to this ordinance, but that they are very close. Well, that's scary because I don't want them being anywhere close to this at all. Close is not good. But my fear is that something like this is going to pass. Now, maybe it's not as egregious as the original ordinance, but anything along these lines that limits a landlord from doing his or her homework on a tenant who is about to live on their property is awful policy. And know that KC tenants, since most of them, don't have families, don't work, don't have kids, they're paid activists, they're going to be out in full force today at City Hall. Do I think that represents Kansas City at large? I don't, but I've been fooled before. So this is, to me, the biggest story that will impact Kansas City so far this year, and it's going to play out this afternoon, and the mayor will be here in 1 hour. 913-408-7957. Also in 1 hour, some big economic news will drop. We'll talk about it next. 1 hour from now, not even 55 minutes away from the GDP numbers coming out for the fourth quarter of 2023. And the forecast, the economy is expected, according to forecasters, to have expanded 2.6% from a year earlier. So we'll have to see what these numbers actually come out to being, what they look like in 1 hour. But no matter what, you're obviously going to have people saying, hey, look at us. We're growing the economy. Life is good. Woo! But is it really? We're sitting here in an election year when the economy is top of mind along with the border. Two things that this president has failed miserably on. As we sit here on a Thursday morning, welcome in. Hope your day's off to a great start. Stay safe on the roads. It is dicey out there, so make sure you're using caution as you get out there. It is foggy, foggy, foggy. So yesterday, you even had, and this is going to be a big push, from Joe Biden, from Kamala Harris. There's going to be a big push from everyone in the administration to talk about how great the economy is and how people don't realize how good they've got it. And that will continue today after the GDP numbers come out in 1 hour, unless it's something that is just insanely lower than expected. But if it comes in at about 2.5% or so for the fourth quarter, they'll be doing cartwheels. Why? Well, because last year in the fourth quarter, 2022, it was 0.7% GDP growth, under 1%. But back in 2021, it was 5.4% for the GDP growth in the fourth quarter. Now, remember, 2021 was wild. I mean, we were on a sugar high in 2021. Inflation was kind of starting, but wasn't fully there yet. We were all living high on the hog. We had, ton of cash built up from the pandemic and all the government stimulus money, and people were getting back to normal lives. So 2021 was the sugar high that really kicked off the inflation into 2022. So to look back on 2021 and say, oh, that was don't get me wrong. It was a good year for a lot of businesses and everything else, but it had to come to an end. It could not continue. And now we're paying the price. We're living through the pain the last couple of years. We're reaping what we sowed from 2020 and 2021 when we just blasted this economy with a bunch of made-up dollars. So today, you're going to see, I believe, numbers right around 2.5% for GDP growth. And then you're going to see celebrations from the people in charge. And by the way, a lot of this started yesterday. Heck, it's been going on now for a while, but there was a big push yesterday. Joe Biden was giving a speech in front of the UAW, United Auto Workers Union. And then Kamala Harris sat down for an interview yesterday. And, well, she wants to make sure you realize that life is good, and she's got to make sure you know it's because of her and Pops. Here she is.
We have we have historic accomplishments in terms of the economy, what we've done to move forward. It's science, technology, and investment in the American workforce, growing the American workforce, rising wages, bringing down prices. Historic work has happened, no question. It is incumbent on us to let people know who brung it to them, frankly.
Who brung it to them? Is that even a word? Who brung it to them? That's quite a way to cap off 25 seconds of nonsense. We got to tell him who brung it to him. Who brought it to him or who brung it to him?
She's a real beauty.
That is Kamala Harris yesterday on Katie Couric's show, which I didn't realize Katie Couric was still doing a show. But Katie Couric is doing media and sat down with Kamala Harris. And Kamala told you that they have done historic things and had historic accomplishments for the economy. Certainly it has been historically awful, I would say, but it's certainly been historic. I will give her that much. Rising wages, Kamala Harris says, real wages are down about 2.5% under the president. Real wages. She said bringing down prices are up 17.3% on average since Joe took office. Now, inflation has come down, but inflation coming down simply means that the cost of goods is increasing at a slower pace than it was 1 year ago. It doesn't mean they're coming down. It just means they're not going up as fast as they were. That's all that inflation coming down means. Inflation is not negative. We're not getting negative inflation here. But when Kamala Harris says things like that, hey, we're bringing prices down, they basically think you're too stupid to realize what's going on. That's what this is, John Anthony.
So it's been brung. It reminds me of a comedy scene. It was parodying the competitive cheerleader movies where they say, bring it on.
Oh, yeah.
And the response is, it's already been brought in. Right? Makes about as much sense.
We brung it, that's for sure.
It's already been brought in.
Yep. Well, that's exactly what Kamala did yesterday with Katie Couric. So then you had Joe, who was with the UAW yesterday. We haven't talked about the UAW in a while, but, he's kind of kicking off 2024, his reelection bid, and he's hoping that those union workers, the backbone of the Democratic Party for so long, are going to show up for Joe. So he goes to the UAW, he does a big rally and says the same thing that Kamala just said.
Over the last year, prices are down on everyday items from a gallon of gasoline to a gallon of milk, and folks are beginning to feel it.
Prices are not down. Now, the price of gas, yes, may be down from 1 year ago. As for milk, I don't know. Not a big milk guy, so I couldn't tell you that. But yes, okay, gas prices are down. But prices are not down. Inflation came in on the last report at 3.4%. That means inflation's up 3.5%. And by the way, that's 70% higher than what the Fed wants it to be at 2%. But he's just standing up there in front of the UAW, a bunch of smart, hardworking, union guys, and lying to their face, saying prices are down.
Over the last year, prices are down.
And they're not down. Gas might be down, but to say prices generally are down is not factually accurate. Once again, they think you're too stupid to understand, first off, what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, what you're living, and what you're seeing with your own two eyes. That's what's happening here. And it's wildly insulting. Like, listen, I get it. It's Joe Biden's job to tell you why he should be reelected. But he should do it by at least using the facts that we have in front of us. If he wants to brag about how, the job market is still relatively strong, do that. I mean, it is relatively strong. I'll give him that. The job market has held up pretty darn well. Now, why it's held up, I think in part because people are doing, 2-3 jobs to keep up their lifestyles, but that's a conversation for another day. At least he can say with certainty and with facts that the labor market has stayed pretty strong and employees do still have some leverage. Okay, good. Run with that. Don't tell me prices are down. Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining here, Pops. Don't do that. And then you got this from yesterday. I mean, we're due for at least one gaffe every time he speaks, right? Got to get at least one in there. So here we go. This is from yesterday, UAW.
Because of you, Toyota, Volkswagen, Nissan, Tulsa all gave their workers double-digit raises. Because of you.
Did you guys buy your new Tulsa yet? You get your Tulsa, John? Mark? You guys have a Tulsa? No?
Waiting for Elon to send me one.
All right. Well, Elon should get you your new Tulsa any day now, Mark. And maybe you could drive your Tulsa to Tulsa as well.
I'm just going to say great marketing opportunity in that Oklahoma market.
Can it get me the 4.5 hours on one charge?
Yeah, 4.5 hours.
Down.
4.5 hours to drive down the Tulsa in your Tulsa, and then you got to charge it for 7 hours to get home.
Come on down to Tesla, Tulsa.
Yeah.
Tulsa, Tesla.
Tesla, Tulsa.
Free puppies and Red Bull for all the kids.
Well, he is trending in the right direction after this word salad 2 days ago.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson. Don't mess with the women in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Compared to Tuesday, Joe's on the upswing. Calling Tesla Tulsa. Tulsa, Tesla, Tesla, Tusla. Oh, brother. 913-408-7957. So this is going to be a big push over the next few months. Trying to convince you that the economy that you are feeling, that you are living every day, is actually much better than you realize. And there's two people that you need to be thanking, by the way. Coming up, we've got one of these bets going on. The worst part about having a Chiefs team that goes to the AFC Championship every year is that you got to deal with these corny bets between politicians. So one politician is betting one of our area politicians with a big fancy video that was rolled out on social media yesterday. We'll play that for you coming up next on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Over the last year, prices are down on everyday items from a gallon of gasoline to a gallon of milk. And folks are beginning to feel it.
Prices are down, damn it. Start appreciating me, would you please? No, that's not how it works. Prices aren't down. They're just not going up as fast. Those are very different things, Mr. President. That's why people do not like the direction of this economy. This is not difficult. Please don't keep lying to us about how good we should think the economy is, because people are not feeling it. Paul's in Kansas City. What's up, Big Paul?
Hey, Pete. Yeah, I was just watching TV last night, the local TV station. The reporter says, hey, I got my utility bill, and I was shocked by the price, so I went to find out, is this happening everywhere? And so they interviewed two people, the young lady that works at home. She says, yeah, I got my utility bill, and I've got to go work at the local Hy-Vee to help make ends meet. And if you read the Inflation Reduction Act, in the section at the about the second third, the attack on the energy industry, well, that's being passed on to us. So this disconnect with the elites, like Joe Scarborough, he didn't worry about his utility bill. But that young lady working at home, yeah, she's got to go get a second job to help pay off this cost of energy because of these policies by the Biden administration. But it was interesting, yeah.
What was that on? Was that Woke 41, or do you know which channel?
I think it was Woke 41, yeah. The reporter came out and said, I was shocked by this utility bill from Spire, and I wanted to find out across Kansas City what it was. And sure enough, I work from home, and I wear 3 sweatshirts, and it's still $236. So I'm like, Yeah.
Yep.
Don't read the Inflation Reduction Act and the Biden attack on fossil fuels. There you go.
Yep. Well, it's why the UAW, the UAW guys are, and this isn't my opinion. This is from Sean Fain. Remember, and I'm not a Sean Fain fan. This is the guy who, held the auto companies hostage and had all these ridiculous demands. But he was on Neil Cavuto yesterday on Fox News. I saw him on there. And he admitted that while Sean Fain has basically stood side by side with Joe Biden, he admitted most of his members just working stiffs. They're not voting for Joe.
Look, let me be clear about this. A great majority of our members will not vote for President Biden. Yes, some will. But that's the reality of this. The majority of our members are going to vote their paycheck.
That's from Sean Fain. When's the last time one of the biggest union honchos in the country went on national TV and just outright admitted, our members, they're probably not going to vote for who we tell them to vote for? Which is basically what Sean Fain is saying in a nice way. This is not, things move fast in politics. This is not what it was a generation ago. The idea of the, blue dog, blue collar Democrat coming home for Bill Clinton or heck, even Barack Obama, that's over. Now, can Trump capitalize on it? That remains to be seen. I think he can with a lot, but I think it's going to take more persuadable voters in the suburbs to come around on him. And I'll get to more of that coming up at the top of the hour on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. It is so good to be here with you. Before we get to 7 o'clock, I saw this on social media yesterday. We got the Chiefs and the Ravens in the Super Bowl, in the AFC Championship game this weekend in Baltimore. And the Baltimore mayor, his name is Brandon Scott, he put out this video challenging Mayor Lucas to a bet. And he put together this big pre-produced minute-long piece that I'll play for you here on KCMO. And something tells me Mayor Q is now going to have his own video for Mayor Brandon Smith of Baltimore today. I wish these guys would focus more on getting the homicide numbers down in their cities. But, why do that when you can have a good time?
This is Mayor Brandon Scott. This is the official challenge to my good friend, my brother, the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas. Your Chiefs, the champs, are coming in town this Sunday to take on my Ravens in the AFC Championship game like no other. Mahomes versus Lamar. And now this is my challenge to you. When the Ravens win, I want to let you know that you will not be getting from me, which I'm willing to wager, 24 crabs from Captain James Seafood, a can of Obey, a video from me in a Chiefs jersey, and if you win, I'm willing to turn City Hall red. Are you willing to return the favor? Mr. Lucas, how confident are you in your boys? Because remember, the last time you were standing right here in this suite, in this stadium with me, the Ravens defeated the Chiefs.
My city got the bird flu. It's game time. I think we need a ring or two.
By the way, he really outed Mayor Q there, saying they were hanging out in the suite last time they were together. They weren't in section 331, row 25. They were hanging out in the suite there in Baltimore.
They have section 500 in Baltimore. I looked up the seats the other day.
You were looking up tickets? Okay.
Yeah.
Good
the
for you.
$350 tickets are now over $1,000, by the way. I didn't get a pair.
You did not. Yeah. You wouldn't be here this morning. You'd be trying to scalp those somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm all about corny bets between politicians once in a while, but it's gotten so out of control. It's one thing to have a bet, hey, make a little 30-second video. You want to post it on your social medias for some clicks. All right, whatever. Now we got pre-produced videos? Pre-produced. That thing's going to be up for an Emmy Award next year.
I think there was actually a key grip on the project there, They do the technical awards. We've got to remember that.
We do.
Lighting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's going to be a lot of folks up for different things next year.
Had the Baltimore version of Tech 9 going in the background, it sounded like.
Yep. But I'm just amazed that between these two towns, 445 people were murdered last year. If only there was a little more emphasis on, some of the things that matter that, these people can control versus sports bets. I don't know. Maybe I'm dreaming, but I think that would be pretty nice. So, and we'll see what the mayor's got in store. He said he's going to announce his bet today. So he's going to be here, by the way, in a half hour. We have a lot to talk about with him. These fountain IDs, these no source of income ban that could be coming to Kansas City landlords. There's going to be a lot on the docket with the mayor of Kansas City in 30 minutes. Don't miss the conversation. I think it's going to be one of our most important conversations of the year. Telling you, you're going to get it here first. Good morning. Who needs the national shows when you're going to get things a week ahead of time right here on KCMO 95.7 FM? Good morning. Mayor Lucas is a half hour away. I would argue our most important conversation, not only of this year, which is only a few weeks old, but it may be the most important conversation we have in the first quarter of 2024. So I saw this on social media yesterday, and I want to share it with you because, well, it's something I've been pondering with you on this show, on the phones, on the text lines, on social media for the better part of a week. And it's drawn out very strong opinions, but it's a conversation worth having and something that, I know a lot of you have ripped me over, but now it's suddenly getting national attention. And what is that? As much as Trump can't stand her, because listen, the primary for all intents and purposes is over. There's no point in sitting here and breaking down South Carolina Super Tuesday. What's going to happen? That is boring. That is a waste of your time. That's a waste of my time. I'm not going to make up storylines to try to kill segments here. We're going to make sure that the stories that we talk about are relevant and actually mean something. And the only conversation until we get to the fall that's really worth having right now is who Trump might pick as his VP. And I floated out the name Nikki Haley. And oh my goodness, you would have thought the place was burning down with some of the responses. And the reason I said that was because the only thing that matters and should matter is winning to Donald Trump. That's it. And where he is weakest is in suburbs, places like Johnson County, Kansas, where we're broadcasting from right now. That's where he needs a lift. Nikki Haley's not going to win him suburban women, but it might give him a shot. It's his best chance to put someone like that on the ticket who ultimately is not going to do a lot. I mean, vice presidents in general don't do much. But it's somebody who helps him in a demographic that he desperately needs to win and do well in. So I've suggested this for the better part of a week. And then suddenly yesterday, prominent national media folks start saying this, and it becomes a conversation nationally. And I'm like, whoa. We've been talking about this on KCMO for over a week at this point, since Iowa wrapped up. So this was Clay Travis. Many of you will know him from Fox News. He also hosts a national radio show. He brought up the Nikki Haley idea, and I'm like, all right, Clay, it's fine. Just tell us you're streaming us on the KCMO Talk Radio app every day, and we'll call it even.
I'm not a purity guy. I'm not sitting around arguing. All I care about is winning. And Nikki Haley does do well with suburban women who are independent swing voters and the people that are persuadable. And I'm not sure at this point in time that you can point me to anyone that Trump would pick that would help him win the general election as a vice presidential candidate more than Nikki Haley, right? Let's consider. I like Elise Stefanik. I love the way she stood up to Harvard and MIT and Penn. I think she's pretty smart. I think she's a talented politician. I don't think she brings you anything new. I like Tim Scott. If you wanted to argue to me, that he is going to help with the black vote, maybe I squint black men and can see that a little bit, but I don't think he really changes the dynamic very much.
So that was Clay Travis yesterday. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, that's exactly what I've been talking about, and you and I have been conversing about for a week and a half. All that matters is winning. Take the purity doesn't matter if you lose. Saying, well, I had the most pure ticket, the most MAGA ticket in the history of mankind. Great. If you lose, what's it worth? What's the value of it? It just goes down as a footnote in history, but it does nothing for the American people and for the country. And the only thing that based on what we've all been living through economically, on the border, foreign policy-wise the last 2-3 years, the only thing that matters is how you end up getting yourself a W. And I know that in, conservative Inc., MAGA social media circles, it doesn't play well. But here's the little behind-the-scenes look into this that a lot of people don't realize. The folks who make money being in those inner circles, whether it's through social media, whether it's through consultancy work, whether it's through influencer land, they're going to be fine. They're going to make their money. They're going to get their clicks, whether Donald Trump wins or Donald Trump loses. So they can play the purity test game because their business relies on it. Mine doesn't. I mean, we just sit here, we do a little show in Kansas City, and, we focus a lot on what's happening in Kansas City and around the region, and, we dabble in some of the national stuff when it's permanent or pertinent, and that's what we do, right? The business is not reliant on being in the right clicks or getting the right clicks from certain people on social media and the right shares. All the national folks that a lot of you and us in general listen to and see, it does. And they're okay win or lose because for them, it's all got to be about loyalty and it's all got to be about purity. You know what I care about as just a regular Kansas Citian who's trying to raise soon-to-be 3 kids and get ahead and save money and have a better life and live the American dream and do all those things that you and I want to do together? All that matters to me in November is winning. Not clicks, not shares, not getting invited to, cocktail parties at the right places. That's irrelevant. But a lot of the national people that you follow, that is important to them. Yeah, I think that, for the most part, we're all like-minded. But they have agendas beyond what someone like me would have sitting here, or certainly what, you would have getting up and going to work this morning. And it's a little dirty secret that they'll never tell you. And I know some of these people, and they're pleasant. And I'm not saying anything that they wouldn't admit privately, but it's just a fact. And that's why when Clay Travis, the first 5 seconds of what he said there, I'm like, thank you. It's nice to hear somebody else on the national level say what I've been saying and what, many of us have been feeling now for quite some time.
I'm not a purity guy. I'm not sitting around arguing. All I care about is winning.
That's it. That's all that matters. Winning. 913-408-7957. Because if you don't win, how pure you are is going to be meaningless. Mayor Lucas is going to join me at 7:35 this morning. It is going to be one of our most important conversations of the year. I can feel it right now. We've got a lot to cover with him here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. 913-408-7957. That's our studio line. And that's our text line here on KCMO. So a lot of people have been celebrating the downfall of more media. And don't get me wrong, we like poking fun at some of our local media friends. I mean, Kansas City Star, forget it, Woke 41. I mean, we'll have fun with it. But there was a huge media outlet that had more layoffs. There was more destruction across the landscape. And generally speaking, regardless of your political persuasion, it's not good. How about that? I didn't know what Bill's morning update was going to be, but it flowed nicely from my last topic, by the way. It's a very good point. I wonder if that's why Trump was all bent out of shape with Nikki the other night, because now, if she's going to hang on, it's going to be another month of this. I disagree with Bill. If I was Trump, I would not debate her, but I see his point. I mean, he can, and he should, by the way. I'm all about more debates, more conversation, more people having back and forths on policies in this country. But, he's avoided them thus far. It hasn't hurt him, so I don't know why he would start right now. So as much as I would like it, if I was advising him, I wouldn't do it. I would ignore it. I would ignore her mostly. That's the thing. That was my big thing, yesterday after Tuesday in New Hampshire. Just ignore her if you're Donald Trump. But you can't, critique her and call her names on social media as he has been the last 24 to 48 hours. And then also say, well, I'm not going to debate her. You either take one of two approaches. You completely ignore her, act like you're the nominee, and just move on. Or, you get in the mud, you debate, and you do that whole thing. But can't have it both ways. So very interesting times. Quinton Lucas is going to be here in 10 minutes. It's going to be a very interesting conversation with the mayor. So if you're not in the car by then on 95.7 FM, make sure you're streaming us on the iHeart or TuneIn app. So more media bloodbaths this week. Last week it was Sports Illustrated. The shocker came down on Friday that Sports Illustrated was basically blowing out everybody. And it's sad for a once great publication. I used to do a little freelance work there, and listen, it was wokey-doke land, but there were still a lot of good people there. And now it's basically not the operation it ever was. It's very sad what's happened to Sports Illustrated. It's fallen flat on its face, and it's basically going to be non-existent. But now we also found this out this week that the LA Times confirms that 115 journalists have been laid off. It's about 23% of the staff that is going away at the Los Angeles Times. And, you've seen this happen locally. Kansas City Star is a shell of what it used to be. And, we mock them all the time, mostly because the editorials are just absolutely insane. But it's really sad because I want there to be good journalism in Kansas City. I want there to be reporters on the ground for a robust local newspaper that's out there caring about things happening in every corner of this region. Because if not, who benefits from that? Corrupt, inept politicians. If you don't have good media watchdogs, and you don't have good journalists, it's bad for a community. I mean, by the way, it's why some of the biggest corruption that you see in politics is in rural parts of the country, because there is literally no watchdog in many of these parts of the country anymore. They don't have newspapers. They can't afford to have a newspaper. Anyone trying to start a newspaper can't make any money doing it. So you get enormous amounts of corruption, in many ways more so than what you see in cities, in rural parts of America. A lot of it goes unnoticed because there's no watchdog. Even if there's someone in city government, let's say, that is, trying to keep an eye on politicians, who are they going to talk to? Who are they going to inform? There is not that way to tell people and tell the public about things happening in very rural parts of the country. And it's also happening, though, in major American cities. Kansas City Star is not what it used to be. I mean, I've seen it dwindle over the last 6-7 years I've been here, never mind from what it was, a generation ago. For many of you who, grew up on it and lived on it and, used it for information. It's not what it used to be. And you can say that about basically every major American newspaper. Now, some people are celebrating this and they're saying, well, this is great. The media sucks and, good riddance. No. I wish the Kansas City Star would invest in ground and field reporters going around to city council meetings instead of overpaying uber progressive columnists to write their latest hit pieces against Donald Trump and Mike Parson and, fill in the blank Republican. That's what gets them clicks, and that's what they think they need to do to keep their business alive. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, it's kind of like, listen, we've seen this in media across the board in large part, but what you see in radio is that the more live and local you are, oftentimes the better off you are as a radio station. And I think newspapers could learn something from radio. The more on-the-ground reporting, local reporting that they're doing, informing their potential readers and their readers about things happening in their town that they don't know about, that'll get them wins. Now, they might like the short, quick, easy sugar rush of a lot of clicks from their latest editorial board piece on how Mike Parson is the worst governor in Missouri history, or Donald Trump's going to destroy the country. They might like that, but that's nothing more than just that quick hit sugar rush. It's not going to get you the long-term success that you should want to get if you're, a real newspaper. So it's sad that the industry has gotten to the point where it's just absolutely destroyed itself. But they also have no one to blame other than the person in the mirror. And that's what you're seeing, whether it's the Kansas City Star or the LA Times. It is absolutely brutal. And it's sad. It's bad for Kansas City. As much as I like goofing on them, it's bad for Kansas City that we don't have, and we try to do it here on KCMO. But listen, we're running a tight ship, so there's only so much we can do. But we're going to do our best. Quentin Lucas, I imagine he's going to do his best next here on KCMO 95.7. Stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We'll have to see the specific language in this source of income ordinance that the mayor just said is going to pass city council today. Man, what a disaster this thing is going to be. And I know he said that, there's going to be a lot of purists like KC tenants who are going to be upset with the final language of the ordinance. I guess, I hope, to some degree. And, if he wants to say it's going to be boogeyman stuff, to say no one's going to be a landlord in this town and it's about a holistic approach. I like holistic approaches. And here's something that as this ordinance unfolds, listen, I got 10 minutes. There was a lot to talk about this morning, so we'll have more chances. It's not like I talk to the mayor, once a quarter. We talk every week. So we'll have more opportunities on this as we get to see the language in the ordinance today. But here's the concern that needs to be addressed. Maybe it's not as radical as some people want, where literally the purists did not want you as a landlord to be able to check anything about the background of a potential tenant, from their potential criminal background to their credit scores or anything along those lines. The mayor says on this show just now, it's not going to be that extreme. Okay, let's wait and see. But here's the part that I believe will drive smaller landlords out of Kansas City. And I guarantee you we could find some of you on the phones and the text line at 913-408-7957. The smaller landlords are not going to want to deal with the headaches of the potential legal system if they have to get involved with that because someone is suing them. Well, this person discriminated against me because of my credit score. This landlord discriminated against me because of my criminal record. And then what do you have to do? You got to go find a way to, get yourself legal representation potentially. And even just the risk of that is not going to be worth it to a lot of smaller landlords who are dealing on tighter margins. The big corporate hotshots, they've got money set aside for legal bills. They've got attorneys on, retainer that they'll call up and they'll handle this stuff. The small-time landlord doesn't have that. And that's going to, I believe, no matter what this ordinance looks like today, John, is going to drive a lot of people out of Kansas City.
I'm thinking maybe a holistic approach would also include perhaps some kind of a fund for small landlords who incur perhaps one of these tenants who then damages the place and you take on these costs. It's like, I've got to do new sheetrock here for one of these guys you sent my way.
Yeah.
And I don't have any copper pipes left. So, if you would have a little fund there to help the small-time landlord so he could then back in turn provide these places that we need.
Yeah.
Now, that might be holistic.
That would be holistic, putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak, right? So this is the unintended consequences stuff that I know, do I think every small landlord is going to leave Kansas City tomorrow after the ordinance passes today? No. And that's the point he's making. And I get that. It's an easy point to make. But it's not. The broader picture here is fewer landlords and more corporate landlords. And for all those, this is the amazing part too. For the organizations like KC Tenants who scream about the big bad corporations, you're going to have a higher percentage of rental units, I believe, when all is said and done, being owned by these folks. The percentage of rentals owned by corporate landlords will increase in the wake of the ordinance. They will gobble up more housing in this town because of this kind of an ordinance. And I think that's inevitable. So they're literally fighting against their own interests. But at the same time, that doesn't surprise me because basic economics is not big and not high on these folks' agenda because they don't really understand it. And now we just kind of wait and see how it plays out. But hey, you know what? I'm disappointed for many of you, but I'm also sitting here saying you get what you vote for. I don't know what else to tell you.